As the U.S. Congress threatens to impose fresh sanctions on Russia, the fund manager who pushed for the last round of sanctions has found himself at the center of the election interference case. Vladimir Putin mentioned Bill Browder by name at Monday's press conference. Mr. Browder is an investor and businessman. He was deported from Russia after exposing corruption there and was later dubbed Vladimir Putin's #1 enemy. On Monday, the Russian president suggested Browder could be a bargaining chip in exchange for letting Robert Mueller question Russian officials.
Business associates of Mr. Browder have earned over $1.5 billion in Russia. They never paid any taxes, neither in Russia nor in the United States. And yet the money escaped the country. So we have an interest of questioning them. That could be a first step.
A few minutes ago at the White House press briefing, Sarah Sanders said the U.S. government was considering the proposal.
He said it was an interesting idea. He didn't commit to anything. He wants to work with his team and determine if there's any validity that would be helpful to the process. But again, we've committed to nothing, and it was an idea that they threw out.
Bill Browder says Vladimir Putin is going the wrong head of state or making a deal. Mr. Browder joins me now. Bill, good to see you. Stunning headlines to hear from the president, from Vladimir Putin on Monday. What is your reaction first to what you heard from Vladimir Putin, and second to what you just heard from Sarah Sanders?
Well, as far as Putin is concerned, he has been absolutely furious with me for a long time because I was the person responsible for putting in place the Magnitsky Act. The Magnitsky Act imposed and visa sanctions on crooks and human rights violators from Russia. And as Putin is a crook and a human rights violator, he feels like his own personal fortune is at risk. And so he's very mad at me. He's been trying to have me arrested, kidnapped, killed for a long time. And this latest request of Trump in Helsinki was just a continuation of that whole frame of mind that Putin is in.
Yeah, and of course, I've been following your story for many years now and was stunned to hear Vladimir Putin bring up your name on Monday. President Trump suggested it was an interesting idea, this proposal of a quid pro quo where Russian investigators would have access to interviewing you in exchange for Robert Mueller's team having access to Russians in Russia that they want to interview. That seems like a baffling proposal, yet the president called it interesting. What was your reaction?
Well, I think it's absurd for him to even entertain that proposal. Vladimir Putin hasn't just asked to interview me. He's asked to interview a number of U.S. government officials who were involved in getting the Magnitsky Act passed. He wants to interview Ambassador Mike McFaul, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia. He wants to interview Kyle Parker, who is a senior congressional staff member who wrote the Magnitsky Act. He wants to interview Robert Otto, who worked in the State Department. And probably most heinously, Vladimir Putin wants to interview three members of the department, three special agents from the Department of Homeland Security who were prosecuting money laundering of Russians in New York who were involved in the Magnitsky case and taking money from the crime that Sergei Magnitsky had exposed. And so, I mean, the whole thing is as corrupt as you could possibly be. That the fact that the people who passed the Magnitsky Act and the people who are investigating money laundering are being targeted to be interviewed, and the president of the United States says that's an interesting idea. This has got to be one of the lowest points in his presidency for him to even have that reaction.
And not only that, when asked about it, Sarah Sanders had an opportunity to shut down that idea. Instead, she said the president is, in fact, considering it and is talking to his advisors about it, and acknowledged that it was brought up in his one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin. Of course, many of our viewers are familiar with the adoption issue that is connected with the Magnitsky Act. Explain to our viewers again why adoption, and Russian adoption in particular, is associated with the Magnitsky Act.
So when the Magnitsky Act was going through Congress, Putin really didn't like it. He tried as hard as he could to try to stop it. He sent emissaries to Washington to spread false information. He leaned on President Obama at the time. Nothing worked. And so in retaliation for the Magnitsky Act being passed, he then banned the adoption of Russian orphans by American families as a retaliation. And let me just point out how heinous that is, that those orphans tended to be sick orphans, orphans with HIV and Down syndrome and various things. American families would go with open arms and open hearts, taking those children back to America and nursing them to health. In Russia, they die in the orphanages.
Yeah.
And so effectively, Putin
is punishing
Putin was sentencing his own.
Go ahead.
His own orphans to death. Yeah.
Right. And so my question to you is, from everything that you've heard now, do you get the sense that the president is considering abolishing the Magnitsky Act? Obviously, that would take an act of Congress, but do you get the sense that that is something the president is contemplating?
Well, I know it's something that Putin wants more than anything. But as you said, this was not passed as an executive order. This was passed as an act of Congress. The Senate voted on it 92-4. The House of Representatives with 89%. And I can tell you that this is not a partisan issue. Republicans and Democrats are fully on board to keep the Magnitsky Act. There's no chance it will be repealed. So whatever Donald Trump might have agreed or thought about, that's not going to happen.
And you, we should note, are not a U.S. citizen. You are a British citizen. So the idea that this would be somehow something that the U.S. government would be able to control seems a bit ludicrous as well.
Well, I think both President Putin and President Trump didn't do their homework. I emigrated to the United Kingdom 29 years ago. I'm a British citizen. And so in this dirty deal that they're discussing, they better bring in another head of state, who is Theresa May. And I'm sure she'd have a few choice words with Vladimir Putin, who's just set off chemical weapons in Salisbury recently.
And we know that you were arrested in Spain, that your life has been threatened around the world. You didn't seem to feel the last few times that we spoke as threatened when you would come to the U.S. Given what you have heard in the last 48 hours, do you feel safe traveling in the United States now?
You know, I think that when this full thing gets ventilated at a legal level, there's no chance that anyone's going to be questioned by anybody in the United States, me or any of those people who Putin put on the list. I don't think that the law enforcement establishment would tolerate that. I don't think it's legal to do, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and the State Department has refuted what we heard from Sarah Sanders as well. So we shall see. This is to be continued, but we appreciate you joining us, Bill Browder. Thank you.